Hello, everybody. This is Tim with the Nintendo Dads, and yes, I am hatless today. So if you're used to seeing me with a hat, don't be alarmed. Everything's okay. I have hair. It's all good. But I jumped on here because I wanted to share how I've been doing with a game called Tavern Talk on the Nintendo Switch. It came out on June 20th, and right now it's on sale on the US eShop for $19.79, so 10% off the normal price of $21.99. It's on sale until July 11th, so you have time to pick it up if you're interested. But as I always say, if you like what you see here, at least add it to your wish list. So if you decide to pick it up later, you'll remember, or Nintendo will remind you. All right, so this game is first thing I thought of was Coffee Talk. I've never played the Coffee Talk game. I think that's what it's called. So I apologize if I got that wrong, but it's basically people walk in or characters walk in, you talk with them and help them through things and make them certain drinks to help them through their story. And this is kind of the gist of what this is, except this is set in a D&D-esque world where I get to meet up with characters that come into my shop, my inn, the Wayfarer's Inn, and they come in and tell me stories and their names for an exchange for me to make them a drink. And based on what they tell me, I have to mix up a drink that will help them on their adventure. So they will say certain things like, I need something that'll toughen me up. So essentially that's a defense drink, because I'm making drinks that are based on their abilities. And if you're familiar with D&D or anything like it, then you have essentially 5 abilities that you get, or in this case there's 5 abilities that you can use to make drinks that will help boost up a customer's whatever. So it could be strength, it could be defense, it could be intelligence, wisdom, charisma, it could be any of those things or a mixture of those things. And then you get a boost in connecting with them and getting more of their stories. And then not only do you get their stories, but you can then take information that you get from them and create quests for other adventurers to pick up from your board, and they go on a quest, and so on and so forth. Right now I'm in Act 1, Part 3. I've already done the first 2 parts. Part 1 was essentially a tutorial. Part 2 was a little bit more story. And I just finished that one, and I figured, you know what, let's do Part 3 together. And that way you can kind of see what's going on, and plus you aren't bored with the tutorial stuff. You'll kind of get right in the middle of Act 3, or maybe this is the end of, not Act 3, but the end of Act 1, Part 3 is what we're starting here, and maybe it's the end of Act 1. We'll see. So, and plus we get to look at something together for the first time, which is the shipment of infusions finally arrived this morning. I now have access to some fey crystals and frozen pine cones, which means I'm probably going to have new things to mix in and new recipes. So that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to this. And in case you haven't noticed, I'm enjoying this game. So it's pretty laid back. I'm not going out there slashing anything, so keep that in mind. If you're looking for a hack and slash, you're looking for RPG, this isn't it. This is more narrative story, interactive story, where you do get to make drinks and interact that way and create quests based on the information you got, like I mentioned before. So, all right, let's get through this. Oh, and one other thing I want to mention too. This game's buttons, if you're used to playing Switch games, you might be thrown off by the buttons, because it says in this case B is to continue instead of in most games on the Nintendo Switch where B is to cancel, and A is the back button in a lot of the cases here. So that'll be home for a lot of people who play PlayStation and Xbox, because that's usually the case, where the bottom button is the action and the right button is the cancel or back button. So just keep that in mind when you jump into this game. You'll have to get used to that. All right, let's continue on. Let's check out what we got here. Continue. Together with Fable's Phoenix chilies, I have 3 infusions now. So Fable is another character I met in the first act, and she was part of the second act. Or, I apologize. I'm still in Act 1. Part 1 and Part 2 is where I talked to Fable, and Fable went out on an adventure, and she gave me some Phoenix chilies because she's a ranger. So, which I have added that. So we'll see what kind of recipes I get from this. I'll unpack them later when I have some time. I have a feeling they'll be of use soon. Okay, so I'm not looking at any of those new recipes yet, but we'll see. Oh, nice. 2 people that were in part 1. And then again, the one in green there, that's Fable. So, but Lynn here is catching me up on what's going on. She came back, so let's see what she's got to say. Innkeep, a drink for me and this lanky pal. It's good to see you too, Lynn. She meant to say please, and that's Fable. Welcome back, Fable. You look alive. So to catch you up, Fable was nervous about going on this adventure. She picked out, or he picked out, or they picked out. And so Fable took on the adventure and was afraid they would die because they had to do a werewolf adventure and try to stop it from hurting sheep and maybe even farmers. So that's why I said you look alive, because they thought they would die. All right. Thank you. I am. That seems like a given. I'm just happy to see them doing well and with a friend. We ain't friends. We're not? Lynn squinting. So you two didn't form a party? No. Oh. Then what's the drink about? They may be very annoying, but they did just help me solve a family feud of 10 years. So I do owe them some of your dishwater at the very least. Family feud? I wouldn't call it a feud, more of a miscommunication. No, it was a feud. I feel like feud implies a certain level of hostility. I was gonna kill him. I thought that was a joke. It wasn't. Oh. But no one died. No. Or that was a question actually before. No one died? No, Elfie here was able to prevent that. It's Fable. Whatever. Does this perchance have something to do with your quest? It does. I stopped her from killing the werewolf. Elaborate, please. I was going to kill the werewolf. They stopped me from killing the werewolf. What's not to get? A lot. I think she is confused because the quest was to save the villagers from the werewolf. And now it sounds like I saved the werewolf from you. Which I did. Kind of. I also remember you saying you didn't want the quest, Lynn. I didn't. Was there by chance? Oh, they were there by chance. Okay, they were both stealing sheep. Was not. Sure was. And adventuring don't pay what it used to. So you steal other people's sheep? Mind your own business. How did any of this lead to a successful quest? Well, where do I start? How about at the beginning? Right. I was born on a half crescent dreaming moon of the quest fable. Right. The quest. Traveling there was no trouble. I know enough shortcuts to travel through the Ashen Grove swiftly. I reached the borders of the Tigurian Rite around dusk. The ash grove thins out around there, and you can catch a glimpse of the wide fields and vineyards, as well as see one farm after the other. An idyllic sight, well, at least before sunset. Do you have trouble in the dark? Emotionally? Visually? A little. I mean, I reckon I can still see more than a human could, but darkness is darkness, and I'm no owl. I love the facial expressions, by the way, in some of these. I have to always look up after reading to see what's going on with their faces. Thank God, you're already weird enough. Imagine the damage you do if you could turn your head all the way around. Who says I can't? Just kidding. Lynn doesn't like the joke, apparently. Anyway, luckily, darkness doesn't affect my hearing. Not the normal kind. What? Nothing. Okay. I heard a creaking fence and footsteps that were failing at keeping quiet. Your ears are failing at being small. So I snuck closer and saw a werewolf-esque shape picking up a tiny sheep. I was petting it. Well, I thought she was going to eat it, so I summoned up all my courage and stepped out of the shadows and said, "Good evening, werewolf. Please put down the sheep." I didn't expect them to be entirely in their right mind, of course, but I wanted to be polite. And I thought it might confuse her, and maybe that would help calm her down. It confused me, all right. Who the heck sees a werewolf and the first thing they do is greet them? A polite person. Or an insane one. It worked, didn't it? Because I ain't no werewolf. He wasn't that different. But I'm skipping ahead. To my surprise, instead of growl, the werewolf, or not werewolf, respond with a what? So the confusion plan had worked, but I hadn't really expected that response. So I said again, "Please put down the sheep." And she asked why, and I said, well, because stealing sheep isn't very nice. And she asked who I was. No, I asked, "Who are you, a guard?" I was about to introduce myself when we heard this blood-curdling howl. It sounded like someone had ripped a hole into the fabric of reality and then pierced it with a horrid yell. Please, it was barely a bark. And it made the blood freeze in my veins. I heard panting and heavy footsteps, and I barely dared to turn around. You turned around immediately. And when I did, I stared into the twisted face of a werewolf, yellow gleaming eyes. Gleaming with jaundice? Sharp teeth, giant claws. He looked like he wanted to eat me right up. He did. But before I could beg for mercy, suddenly something rushed past me and lunged at the werewolf. When I regained my composure, Carolyn and the werewolf were on the ground fighting tooth and nail. And the sheep you were holding? Obviously, I set it down at that point. Good. So you went to Fable's aid? No, that ain't it. I noticed the wolf's flannel rags. They were blue, checkered, and an uneven print. Just like the kind of stuff Uncle Dragan likes to wear. That old bleep. Hey, why can't I say that? Bleep. What the bleep? Youth protection. The age rating system is quite harsh. Fourth wall. Bleep. I need a bleep button on my stream deck here. Anyway, it was dressed like Uncle Dragon, smelled like Uncle Dragon, fought like him too. I was joking when I brought it up before, you know. Haven't seen that old man in years. Was coping about it, but by joking. That's the only way I can talk about him these days. Because of the feud? Yes. He used to be my favorite uncle, but then he changed. Because irritable and angry and distant. Fought a lot with Uncle Feder. Became irritable and angry, distant. Fought a lot with Uncle Feder. Okay. Cared more about the moon than he did his own family. Eventually he just left, ran away without a word, left us and Uncle Feder behind, worried senseless. Until we found a letter saying not to look for him and all their savings missing. Swore I was going to kill him if I ever saw him again. Always thought he just couldn't face up to his problems. Turns out his solution was just to get those problems as far away from everyone as possible. Idiot. Did you talk it out with your fists? I tried, but Elfie stopped me. I'm glad they did. How did you figure that out? Well, she was yelling at him. I didn't understand half of it, but I could tell she was angry and hurt. I tried to get their attention by telling them to stop by, but they wouldn't listen. So I shot an arrow right next to both of their heads. So before Fable left, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, I gave Fable a charisma drink. So that drink allowed them to have more charisma, as it said. But I had the choice of either giving them a charisma drink or a dexterity drink. So I gave them the charisma drink, because they seemed to want to try to see if they could talk to the werewolf and talk it out. And this is where I think that story is going. Where if I made the choice to have dexterity, who knows where this would have gone. Maybe there's another playthrough involved there to figure that out. But alright, let's continue this. Alright, my aim was a little shaky, so I did end up grazing Mr. Dragon's ear, but it got them to stop for long enough to start listening to me. I threatened them that if they didn't stop to talk, I would shoot them both. I would have never done that, of course, but they must have believed me because they actually stopped to listen. Looked mighty scary there, little pal. Thank you. I sat them down and did my best to be an insurmountable obstacle between them. If they wanted to fight, they would have to go through me. That sounds rather dangerous. Wouldn't have stopped for them. What? You're the size of a stick. You think you could stop two angry wolves? Oh, well, anyway, I used the opportunity to figure out what was going on, and that's how I found out about Mr. Dragon and Carolyn and the miscommunication. Feud. The feud, sure. Turns out that after Mr. Dragon was turned, he was too ashamed to admit it, but he couldn't stop the changes and ended up hurting all the people he cared about. That's no excuse, of course. No, it ain't. If we had known, we'd have helped him out, helped him best we could. At the very least, would have built a sturdy shed with scratch-proof walls for full moons. He didn't think that would have happened, though, so he decided to fix the problem by leaving, deal with it alone, and so on. But that only made it worse. Of course, he was too embarrassed to come back, so he just focused on the whole werewolf thing and not any human things. Or Vakakan things, so to speak. Trying to find a cure, trying to avoid the moon, trying to find a place to sleep, stealing sheep. There's something they have in common. The sheep? No, the stubbornness and the unwillingness to ask for help. But the sheep too. And of course Lynn is squinting their eyes. But they had to talk about it. That silent resentment wasn't good for either of them. And you got them to do that. The little stick is oddly persuasive. Had us talking about it before I even realized I didn't want to. Maybe because you did want to. A shock look on her face. Maybe. How did it go? Fine. We'll take some time to accept his apologies. We'll have to see him change first and apologize to Uncle Feder and the rest. But it was good to see him again. Guess a hug did feel better than a great sword in his gut. Wonderful. Of course, there's still the problem with the whole werewolf thing. Idiot got so obsessed with a cure he still can barely control himself. We helped him realize that even a cure couldn't change what he'd done. That he has to accept he's different now and learn how to live again. Of course, it won't be easy. No change ever is. I learned that from you. But we have a group of werewolves living near our settlement. A small community that enjoys the company of our warm trees. We play charades with them a lot, and they taught me about the phases of the 7 moons and the secrets of the moon signs. That sounds like a bunch of beep. It's real. You're a crescent moose. We introduced Mr. Dragon to them, and they promised they would take him in and help him deal with his lycanthropy. Did I pronounce that right? Lycanthropy?
That's about as close as I would do it, because I have never really been good at that word.
Yeah, that's a lycanthropy. I guess I didn't read enough fantasy books, I guess, or any werewolf stories. Yeah. That sounds great. It is. It's a happy ending. I wouldn't call it an ending, rather than beginning of something new. So the end of one adventure is just the beginning of another one? Exactly. I like that. So after your heroic therapy session, you two decided to grab a drink together? Got offered to spend the day at the settlement. But they don't serve anything strong enough for my tastes. Plus, Elfie was dying to get back here. Was talking about how they need to update you on everything nonstop. Would think they live here or something. I had to report back about the quest. I'm glad you did. They also started crafting something with the werewolves. Ah. Said something about it being for you and keep? Oh, really? Yeah. It's not finished yet, but I'll let you know, I promise. That wasn't that hard, was it? Ah, well. So a drink? What can I offer you, Lynn? Surprise me with something that fits my brawn. By which I mean make me the usual strength never gets old. Alright, so here, now I get to show you guys the drink thing. So here is my workbench for making drinks. So here I got my little dragon pet, Andu. And I can give them a little pet, which makes them a little happy. Makes their eyes sparkle. And then I can now make a drink. So I can go to my notebook. There we go, by pressing X. So there's my order. It's got a sword. And now I have a few recipes that I have right now. And hopefully this will expand shortly. But each one focuses on one of these stats or abilities like you would know in D&D. So like there's the sword is strength, the crown is charisma, the wings are dexterity, the brain is intelligence, and the shield is defense. And the drinks to the left, the ingredients kind of line up with those things. So like the Ignis is for strength, the Cantio is for charisma, the Pluma is for dexterity, Tempest is for intelligence. And then Frigus is for defense. And so now that Lynn asked for something for strength, we're going to make a strength-based drink. So we'll go back to the recipes, which would be the Southern Brawler one. So here I tell it to pin the recipe, which is Y. Not sure why I can't see the letters. Let me do this real quick. Go back to here. Nope. Interesting. The letters have disappeared to tell me what to do. So pick up is B, remove infusion is A, and you hold the A is to use the sponge, and then finish the drink is Y, and then ZL is the pet. Thankfully I played enough to see that, to remember that. Alright, so let's do this drink. So pick it up, bring it over to my cup, and we need to match the we need to match the Southern Brawler recipe there in the center on the chalkboard. So I got the strength in place. Now I need to add a little bit of the charisma. One level there, and then one level of defense. And there we go. Southern Brawl made. And pet the dragon one more time. And Y to finish. And it teleports right to the person who ordered the drink. So there's that one. Surprise! Alright, so before we go further with the story here, I want to show you the rest of the book here. So this is the recipes page. And then this, I hit the L or R buttons, the shoulder buttons, to go between these things. This is the infusions page, so that if I eventually get some things to infuse with the drinks, I can add it to the recipe. I haven't gotten that far yet. This is the map of the world I'm in, and I can see certain parts of it and explore that a little further. So here, there's some exclamation points here we can go to read about. So here's that new one, Until Sunrise. And this talks about one of the things I've learned through discussions in Part 1 and Part 2 of Act 1. I learn about these places and can build on it and learn and get this type of information on my map. So that was new information I just added, and that's why I had a blinking dot on that tab. All right, let's back out of this. Again, A is the back out. So over here I have a blinking tab because I got a new character named Kyle. I got no more information on, so that's why that was there. This is the rumors page, so I can access it, and I need at least 3 parts to a rumor in order to complete it and make a quest. So as you can see, I got 2 purple pages there and one yellow page. So I don't have enough to make a new quest. But if I did, I could just hit B. Or actually, I make a quest at the end of the day, and then I would be able to move them into there. So I might not be able to show you that just yet. If we can make it through the end of the day, then I can show you. If not, just know that there is, at the end of the day, you put all these parts onto a quest sheet, and then it puts it together and makes you a new thing that you can put together for quests, like this. So this is the werewolf one. Oh no, this one is. This is the werewolf one that they just got back and reported on, and it's been completed by one of the questers or adventurers. This is what I got to put together. It now looks like this. I put together 3 pieces of the werewolf story, created the quest, Fable went on that quest, and then came back and reported that it was completed. Until Sunrise is the newest one I created at the end of the day of Part 2, and it created this one. And then this was another one I created at the end of Part 2. And that's all from putting together pieces like this. And then as I'm talking to people that come through, they'll go look at the quest board and then go on the quest and then hopefully come back and fulfill it. And in Fable's case, I gave her a drink to help them on their quest and complete the quest. So all this stuff has been very. I've been enjoying that. It's very different. Not only am I going through a story and reading an interactive story, but I'm creating the quests, creating the drinks, uh, and making choices on those drinks. It's not specific ones, but like in Fable's case, I had the choice of making a charisma drink or a I had the choice of making the charisma drink, which is going to be Spoken Heart, or the dexterity one, which is the Swift Strike. So, and because I gave them the Spoken Heart one, that's the outcome of the story you guys learned. So, um, one of the things that I learned too in this game is that this game is, let me see if I can find that. This game is about 7 to 20 hours for a full playthrough. So there is quite a bit of content here, but at the same time, because I'm early on, I don't want to ruin anything for anybody who might be interested in playing this. So um, I think I might end the my let's play here just because you got to see a little bit of everything, and you got to see exactly what's going on in these tabs and how to put things together. I got to put together a drink. There's obviously more this game is going to do when it goes further down the line, where I'll learn more recipes. I'll get to have some infusions, and that's all a lot of fun stuff. That if you'd like to learn more, I'll more than likely be talking about it more on our podcast, the Nintendo Dads podcast, which goes out every Friday morning. Or if anybody's interested, I can do a stream of this. Just leave it in the chat below, and then I'll try to do a stream. But until then, this is Tim with the Nintendo Dad sharing Tavern Talk on the Nintendo Switch, which I believe, let's see if it's anywhere else. So I believe it's on Steam. Video game Tavern Talk is also available on Steam. Yes. So there you go. You have a couple options. And I highly recommend it if you're into stuff like this, and or even if you're not, because I don't usually play a lot of these type of games myself, but I like the interactiveness of the story. But again, until then, this is Tim with the Nintendo Dads, and I will check you later. Bye-bye. All right, where am I gonna go back to? Back to the story.